All right. It is 9 o'clock on this chilly, brisk December morning. I hope everybody's doing great. Good to see y'all. Um, let's hit it while other people are logging in. Um, we're glad to have everybody. All right. For some shocking news, only 16 more shopping days before Christmas. Woo! It came here with vengeance, didn't it? Um, but today, some people are celebrating National Brownie Day. Other people are celebrating National Lard Day. I'm just celebrating Friday. So, got a lot going on in a interesting time because usually it starts slowing down this week, next week for the holidays. But there is a ton going on, um, especially on national stuff. So let me throw out some economic data, and then I'll hit a few high points, then throw it over to y'all. But job numbers are out. I didn't see what they were, but they were supposed to be released this morning at 8:30, and the expectation where the economy is going to grow by about 190,000 jobs, which is actually pretty good. October was about 150,000, but if we can get around 190, I think the market's going to respond favorably today. Um, an interesting thing, the Labor Department released numbers yesterday that job openings declined to just 8.7 million job openings across the country. And that's the lowest number since March of 2021. So all that is to paint a picture of nobody's talking about recession anymore. That slow, what the Fed has been trying to do, that soft landing looks like it's actually working. I got a chance. The university had its economic forum this week, and they painted a different picture of what 2024 looks like. Our good friend Dr. Woodward and Joey Von Nessen gave a good presentation this week. Just overall employment numbers. We're currently 5.5% higher in South Carolina than we were pre-pandemic in employment, which is that's a lot more people to work. And we were about between October of 2010 and October 2019, South Carolina saw a growth of 2.1% in jobs. Well, between 2021 and 2023, that same month, we've seen 2.9% increase. So it just shows you, we're seeing this population growth in South Carolina, and granted, we're seeing job growth, and we're also seeing a lot of folks that are moving here that are retirees. So take that into account as well. And it's also tracking with our budget numbers. So the BEA recently updated and adjusted their forecast for 2024. They just added $486 million to the budget coffers this year. So that's in addition to what they thought was going to happen. They thought it was going to be a slowdown, so they lowered their numbers. But then they see all the new tax returns, wages going up, etc. So they just added $426 million with improved sales tax revenues and also income growth. So, hey, more money for the legislators to spend when they come back in. Interestingly enough, last little bit of boring economic news. Just this year, or just in the last couple months, since August, inflation has gone down. Wages have gone up in South Carolina. It's the first time in several years that income growth has outpaced inflation. So what does that mean? That means more people have more money to spend, theoretically, and buying durable goods and product. So maybe Christmas will be better for shopping than early anticipated. So that's actually pretty good. Sorry for those who don't like boring economic numbers. I get into, I love it in an odd way, but it is a better, rosier outlook. Now, what does that mean for 2025, 2026? Who knows? It'll all change. I promise you that. But for the time being, all the economists were happy. All right. Speaking of happy, the Iowa caucus is less than 40 days away. That is crazy. So as you start turning on the TV in your downtime over holidays, expect the media buys from our presidential candidates to well, you're going to see them a lot. And so with only 40 days for the Iowa caucus, and that's less than 60 days. Well, in 75 days, all of us going to be out of South Carolina. The last weekend of January is going to be the Democratic primary here in South Carolina, and late February will be the Republican primary. So either turn on your TV if you really like it, or turn off the TV if you really don't like it. But whatever, you're going to be inundated with anybody getting robocalls? Holy schmoly. Everybody, they are send a voicemail, send a voicemail, send a voicemail. Anyway, I know those in the political realm and especially media buyers, they like those things, but I don't. Anyway, let's talk about what's coming up quickly is legislative session in South Carolina. And this is going to be a really interesting year this year. A lot of attention right now is being put on insurance premiums for businesses, especially those that sell alcohol. You're seeing a lot of businesses, a lot of bars and restaurants that have been in business a long time are closing up shop. For those that there was a piece of legislation that passed in 2017 that required more liability insurance on any establishment that sells alcohol after 6 p.m. Well, basically says they have to carry at least $1 million in insurance, and so the rates have just gone through the roof. Where businesses that were paying $10,000 a year for insurance are now paying $65,000 insurance. So it is unbelievably tough. And I think at last count, we've lost somewhere around 21 carriers in this marketplace, which means fewer places to go, fewer options, and it's just gotten more expensive. And so the earth was shattering a little bit yesterday. Judiciary Chairman Luke Rankin has called for investigation and has got a group to look at what truly is causing these insurance spikes. Well, I just told you, it ain't rocket science. It was poor legislation and anti-competition, and that's caused the rates to go up. So I think the business community is rallying around this, between all the chambers, state chamber, manufacturers alliance. A lot of folks are talking about it. So hopefully we'll get some action this year. The problem is, I'm a cynic and I apologize, but this year is going to be strange at the State House. It happens every few years. It doesn't happen every year, but we got all 170 legislators are up for election this year. No constitutional officers, but all legislators up for election this year. But coupled with the presidential stuff, we're going to get our fill of rhetoric for the next couple months. At the State House, what that means is when all 170 legislators are up for election, you can break down the session in 3 terms. You've got January and February and half of March, where actually they try to get stuff done, but they're really pandering to their parties. So you're not going to see a ton of stuff happening in the first part of session, especially since the presidential stuff is here, and that's going to suck the oxygen out of the air. I love my political friends, but when the camera's turned on, somehow they get a little more verbose. And I'm trying to be very polite. But when cameras turn on, they actually pontificate a little longer than usual. But they're not going to be there's not going to be the attention on the State House in the first couple months, just because everybody's going to be turning on to the presidential stuff. So we'll have to see what happens. But then in mid-March, it's called filing period. The last 2 weeks of March are always filing, and so no politician, I don't fault them for it. It's to state the obvious. They're scared of their shadow for 2 weeks because they don't want anybody to run against them. They don't want to say anything that provokes somebody to run against them. So it's basically a mute period. We call it purgatory. Nobody's stepping on anybody's toes for 2 weeks. Beginning of April, game on. Filing's closed, and they've only got 5 weeks left of session to get stuff done. So, Katie, bar the door. Watch out. All the activity, all the action is going to be starting April 1st through the first week of May, and anything can happen in those 5 weeks, and I mean anything. So, with that, I got a great opportunity for y'all next week. If you're free Wednesday morning, come out to the breakfast briefing at Segra Park. It's one of my favorite meetings of the year. We're bringing in Micah Caskey and Todd Rutherford to come and talk about all the things politically charged happenings in South Carolina with those two guys. And I love those two guys because they're no sacred cows. You can just chat about anything, and they're pretty much, they don't give you the political spin. They keep it real, which I appreciate very much, which is why I have them back every year, because it's fun. But they'll call it like they see it. So if y'all are free and you're interested in the political scene in South Carolina, come out Wednesday at Segra Park, 7:30. It'll be a doozy. I promise you that. And on another, before I turn it over to y'all, programming note, in January, a month from today, I got my good friends Carlos Phillips from the Greenville Chamber and Brian Dearberry from the Charleston Chamber, and they're going to be my guest on Coffee with Carl next month. So looking forward to having them and appreciate their willingness to hang out with y'all. All right, I hit the highlights. There's a lot more going on. But I'm more interested to see what y'all have going on in your business and what's going on around Columbia. Last thing, you're seeing a lot of this. I got a couple of press calls this week. Sad to see River Rat Brewery closing, and a few other businesses are closing, but more are popping up. And so I think you're going to see a lot more of that coming up. I don't see it anything more than just a normalization and kind of just the business cycle playing out. Because if the last few years have been hard, and for those that have been running pretty wide open the last 3 or 4 years, people are tired and are going to probably, if they can't find a buyer, they're going to close doors. But that's just, I don't see anything more than just a typical business cycle. But happy to chat about any of things like that with y'all. But who's got something for the good of the cause today?
Carl, we're hearing some interesting rumors about some potential new candidates in the governor's race, maybe leaving some federal delegation positions and running for governor. Have you been hearing that?
That's been a steady rumor for about 8 years. I mean, what's interesting, at this point, it's all rumors, and we just had elections 2 years ago, well, a year ago, quite frankly, but for those state offices. 3 years is a long time. They'll have to make a decision in 2 years. Rumors right now are rampant, but I would, I think what we'll see, I think it's too early to tell if those come to fruition or not. I would not be surprised if if it does happen, but it also wouldn't surprise me if it doesn't happen just because it's so far out right now. But there's a lot of jockeying. Ralph Norman is been very vocal about his interest in running against Lindsey Graham. If that happens, there'll be a shakeup. Somebody from the state house will run for his seat. Nancy Mace is going to have an interesting race in Charleston next year. There's a lot of volatility right now on the federal, and you're seeing a ton of people on the federal side decide not to run again because of the dysfunction in DC. Longtime members of Congress are stepping down left and right because they're just frustrated, and I get it. So I expect more rumors. I didn't answer your question really. Sorry, but
you played diplomatic.
But those same rumors were true 4 years ago, and when there's talk, and there's going to be a wide open governor's race. Henry will be the longest serving governor in the history of South Carolina after his term here, and I expect there will be at least 10 people running for that seat initially, and so I think people are just jockeying now, get their name out, see if there's interest, see if they can raise any money. But the 2 years, 3 years is a long time.
Yeah. I did want to say about Luke's resolution bill, whatever, to ask for this study. He actually did that in a subcommittee hearing on the Justice Act bill back in like April, and they've been working on it. I mean, I'm not really sure if that was intended to pump the brakes on where he sees things going, but I've been told by some of the folks in the insurance side of things that report from the Department of Insurance is due to come out right before session. So we're not sure what he was trying to accomplish with that. And I just came back from our national conferences where a lot of this got discussed, and our neighboring states are going the complete opposite direction from us. They don't have any mandated coverages like for alcohol, and they're getting rid of all the kind of, craziness, amended joint and several things. So it will become even more of, I think, even more of an economic impact across multiple industries. Everybody likes to talk about the alcohol side now because it's been the most visible, but it isn't going to stop there.
Well, he got out of it because he got out in front because next week the Republican caucus is meeting in Charleston for a couple of days, setting their agenda, and they're getting phone calls left and right, making this issue a priority. At least the business community is actively calling legislators to the state chamber put out a release this week asking the people to call. So he's just trying to look responsive. It's what they do. So we'll be interesting to see what actually transpires after their caucus meeting this week.
He didn't even show up when the Myrtle Beach chamber did their legislative breakfast. So
yeah, that surprised me. All right, what else we got today?
Well, what do you think about judicial selection changes?
Yeah, for those that aren't aware, that we elect judges like no other state. South Carolina prides itself in doing things a little differently. 49 states could do it one way, and we're going to be hell-bent on finding a new way. That's just what we do. Stubbornness, pride, whatever you want to call it. Maybe we're smarter than everybody. I don't know. The judicial stuff is going to be interesting because we've got an election this year for a new Supreme Court judge, chairman, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The General Assembly right now elects all of our judges. Neighboring states like North Carolina have some that are you vote on in a general election, or they're voted by a popular vote, which is it brings so much money into a judicial issue that really is scary, quite frankly, in my opinion. But if we elect, we created a judicial merit screening committee made up of legislators and non-legislators to look at candidates. But we have so many lawyers that are in the General Assembly, and they are part of the decision making on who should get elected as judges. And then, then they have to vote on those judges, and then they have to appear before the same judges when they're representing their clients. It's messy, and it's not transparent all the way. And so I think that'll be a hot topic next Wednesday morning with Todd and Micah. Micah chairs the Judicial Merit Screening Committee. And I think they're all looking for a way to provide some transparency and clean up the process a little bit. Is what is the best way? And that's always been an issue. This goes back 20 years. We've been talking about how do we appoint magistrates and how do we appoint judges? Does the governor get to appoint some with the advice and consent of the Senate? And there are a lot of proposals out there. All of them have some negatives to go along with it. But at the end of the day, it's so inside baseball. But the ramifications are huge, and how a lot of this, by the way, comes out of the Murdoch stuff too, right? There was a lot of smoke and mirrors around all that as well. So I think that does play. People are paying attention. And again, it's an election year. And so legislators are hypersensitive this year on what their constituents are talking about. And so this has got a lot of play. I think there'll be some tweaks, but I think the key there is tweaks, not an overhaul. By the way, that's just my opinion. All right, what else we got? What's happening with y'all's businesses? Anything good, bad, great things coming up before the end of the year?
I have a couple of things, not so much about specific business, but a couple of legal cases and a couple of other items. There's a case right now in front of the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, the Moore case, which could dramatically affect the tax code as it is currently written. It's all about the definition of income. And so obviously a lot of tax attorneys and accountants are keeping a close eye on that case to see how the Supreme Court rules. There's another case, interesting case against Panera for a guy that drank 3 large cups of their charged lemonade, the energized stuff. And apparently they just have it sitting out with all the rest of the drinks, no label on it or anything. And this guy died from having too much caffeine. He said it was the equivalent of having like 12 cups of coffee all at once. Those are the cases. An interesting business statistic here for South Carolina is we actually have 300 companies that are in the recycling business, employing about 1,800 people. So when you think recycling is just not happening and that it's actually being combined with the general trash, these companies are trying to make a difference in actually repurposing and recycling all kinds of materials. I thought that was kind of interesting.
And growing. We got service solutions moving into Richland County, $340 million project going out on Shop Road. Is going to be recycling batteries.
Yeah, so that's going to be real big. Last thing is, and most of us have heard of AI, and I would guess that most probably have not been using it in their daily business lives, but that's something that is becoming more and more prevalent, and using AI to work with you, not for you. So it's not a replacement for the human, but it's something that supplements efforts and can improve productivity. So I think everybody needs to be paying attention to that. Darla Moore School just had a conference last week. I wasn't able to get there. It was all about the different uses of AI. So that's something everyone should keep an eye on, I think.
It is fascinating. I have not embraced AI, but we had an interesting comment conversation last week. I was with some of my peers around the country, and we had a conversation how chambers are using AI. I'm so old school. I know I need to embrace it, but I'm looking for. I think everybody's calling on some protections. It is the wild, wild west, and so I do think that the safeguards will be coming down in 2024 on how we can use it in the best way possible. So, good points, Rusty. And that couple of those cases, you're right, are very, very interesting. I was reading about that income case this week, and that'll be fascinating. All right, what else we got? I hate calling on people, but I don't want to. Y'all chug some coffee, not as much as that dude did from Panera, but y'all chug a little bit. No one? Wow. It has been a long week. I get it.
Well, heck, Carl, I'll go ahead and put it out there.
Thank you. Right back to Jordan.
End of year giving is a great opportunity to, I'm sure there are other nonprofits on here that feel the same way. This is a great time of year to make your year-end donations to your favorite nonprofits. Red Cross could be one of them. We're trying to fund a whole new fleet for our blood transportation. So looking for support for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Write those checks.
Write those checks. Get that tax deduction.
Absolutely.
This is Elizabeth. Speaking of AI, I was on a call being trained on some sales, even though I've been doing this for over 25 years. It's always good to be trained continuously. But they talked about AI just makes everyone sound the same eventually in our industry, staffing industry. So be careful of that. And then there's a new AI portal called citizenportal.ai. Citizenportal.ai that you could type in your zip code and it gets you to all your county meetings that are recorded, and it jumps to sites to exactly the subject that you want to listen to in your county meetings.
How fancy is that?
It's very good. You don't have to listen to 56 minutes to get to the 30th minute to get to the point that you want to hear. You can jump straight to, like I have it pulled up, Airbnb suspensions with Lexington County. You just jump right to where the word Airbnb was mentioned in the 3-hour meeting or whatever. So citizenportal.ai.
I wish that was around when I was sitting in the lobby for years. Holy cow. I aged so much listening to some meaningless dribble.
Jump
That's
right
good stuff.
to it has lots of hyperlinks. So it's a lot of blue lines that you read. The trade is there, but on that, reading the blue lines of interest. So I guess you could do Control F and get to some of the information, but yeah, citizenportal.ai.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, guys, this has been real. I hope y'all have a great holiday. We appreciate your partnership with the chamber. We can do anything, let us know. But y'all be safe and stay warm. Don't drink too much. Don't eat too much. And for the love of Pete, please drive in the right lane. Y'all have fun. We'll see you next time here. And we'll see you soon, too. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.